What are we going to get into today? We're talking about the Rogansphere. We're talking about the left's obsession with the Rogansphere. We're talking about the Jubilee debate with Jordan Peterson, and we're trying to connect these. Are they all connected? That's what I'm going to explore. I'm not sure I know the answer yet, but I'm going to ask questions to myself and try to create a dialogue. It's kind of a crazy thing to do, right? With myself, an inner dialogue, and explore this. Are all of these things connected? And why does the left not inspire men, ambitious men? Why does the left not inspire ambitious men? And what is the vision that has to do with people who want to develop themselves, who actually want to move forward in life, men, strong men who want to do things that are important, that they're proud of? And how does that all connect to this anti-human agenda that we're going through? And what do all of these events connect to each other? We have CNN talked with Tim Dillon about their obsession with the Rogansphere, and they don't have an ecosystem. The left doesn't have an ecosystem of podcasters that can help us and brainwash people and win the election. And Joe Rogan, he gets angry, and he makes sure that no one can get on a podcast if they have a left leaning point of view. And so we have all of these things connecting. That's what I think. At least I'm going to explore it here. So let's talk about these questions here so you guys know what I'm actually going to talk about. And then I'm also going to talk about DEI and how they are trying to scramble and move around and try to go into hiding, but also stay active in places like Target and Bud Light and all these places like that. Welcome in, guys. And then I've got this. I'm going to tell you guys what I'm up to, and that's just a small part of the program, but I will talk about it. And before we do that, I gotta do a little bit of warm up, because that is what we're doing here. We're moving forward, we're going on an adventure, and we're trying to improve ourselves. So I'm gonna just do some tongue twisters so I can enunciate better. So here we go. Let's try it. I'm gonna do Peter Piper. Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. A peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked. And Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers. Where's the peck of pickled peppers Peter Piper picked? Now this one's harder. Betty Botter. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter. I don't know how that one works. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas Betty better body better. Oh man. So 'twas better Betty bought a bit of better butter. I got to get that one better. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said the butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. But a bit of better butter will make my batter better. So 'twas Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter. That one's hard. So 'twas better Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter. How much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Just waiting for you guys to come on in. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the anti-human forces against the creators, against the people who are aligned with the creation framework. And that is what I'm all about in here. So while you guys are coming in, how much wood could a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? How would he chuck as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Can you guys do that one? How much wood would a woodchuck chuck if a woodchuck could chuck wood? He would as much as he could. He would as much as he could, and chuck as much wood as a woodchuck would if a woodchuck could chuck wood. Dang, that is rough. So I'm trying to learn my enunciation better. I speak in 2 languages, and most of the day I actually speak Espanol, and so I'm trying to get that better. And I'm also trying to work on my storytelling skills. And so let's get into this, though. Jordan Peterson. All right, we're going to talk about these questions here, guys. So first of all, anti-human forces. What are we talking about there? DEI changes their acronyms. I want to talk to you guys about my perspective on anti-racism, what that is, and how it affects you and your subconscious and your mentality as you move forward in the world. I call them not anti-racists, but double racists. And then I might even talk about artificial intelligence, consumption, scrolling, comparing yourself to people you don't know, the Facebook lie of connecting. There's a Facebook lie of connecting. And then I'm going to start out by telling you this thought that I had this morning, and I hope it encourages you. So if you guys look in the Bible, it says that you are more blessed to give than to receive. And so better to give than to receive. So these are some of the misconceptions we have about giving. So, and this actually all dovetails and connects to kind of this left versus right, not really left versus right, but this anti-human versus human uh, a narrative. So better to give than to receive. This is what I think. Giving is not a zero-sum game. People don't get this. When you're giving something, you're not losing something. Giving is not losing. Giving is gaining because it produces something new that didn't exist before. What does it produce, you may ask? What does giving produce? It produces goodwill. It produces self-worth because that now you are useful because you've given something to other people. Look at that. I gotta button up. Maybe I'll just leave it like that. And then what's the other one? Oh yeah, so it produces goodwill, it produces self-worth, it produces freedom from the chains of dependency on the thing that you gave. Let me say that again. Giving is better than receiving because it produces freedom from the chains of dependency on the thing that you gave. So you were dependent on that thing, you were attached to that thing, and when you give it away, you are freed from the chains, right? And so we see this narrative of in the Bible and in life of when you detach yourself from something, then something grows from that. So, and the dependency on something is actually a prison that you live in. When you're dependent on things, then not only can you not get more of those things, but you're also imprisoned. You're in chains. And so we know that God refills the cup of the giver, right? And this is not just a woo-woo thing that God gives to refills the cup of the giver. It's not just a thing that we talk about where God does this thing and he just sees you and goes like this. It's actually ingrained in the entire system of the universe. So we can talk about that another time, but just remember that. So then let's get into how all of these things connect. So what happened? So Jordan Peterson had a debate with the anti-humans, and then many people criticized him for being defensive with these people. And we're going to explore if he was justified or not in being defensive with these debaters, these anti-human debaters. And some people say, and we're going to talk about Tim Pool and his analysis on it and his little people that he has on his podcast. They analyze this, and then so the question is, did they find a hole in Jordan Peterson's philosophy, and did they uncover him as a fraud? Oh, he's a fraud. He thinks he acts like a Christian, but he's not a Christian. But he acts like an atheist, but he's not an atheist, or something like that, right? So the narrative was that they caught him in semantic games. We're going to talk about that. And then I'm going to just give you the questions that I want to go through, and then I'll start exploring them. So the first question is, were these debaters ignorant of Jordan and just clever, right? Did they not know anything about Jordan when they came on the Jubilee thing? Oh, and they were just clever, or did they know everything about him? The next question is, are those debaters that got the big clicks, all the millions of views online about him, were they good faith actors? Then we're going to explore this question. Why did Jordan not say whether he was a Christian or not? Because he has this famous quote in there in that debate where he says, I could be either one, Christian or non-Christian, but I don't have to tell you, right? So he was defensive. Then we have, what trap were these debaters trying to trap him in? And with this idea of worship. So he talks a lot about worship, and then they brought up worshiping Mary. So we're going to explore that. Why does Jordan Peterson insist on not proclaiming his faith in Jesus Christ in an explicit way? We're going to explore that. What is the point of Jubilee? So some people are asking, have been chattering online about what's the point of Jubilee and why do they do what they do? I'm going to give my take on that, or explore it, talk through it. What does this have to do with the Rogan-sphere obsession from the left? And then CNN had an interview with Tim Dillon, and that was a thing that was phenomenal and remarkable for some specific reasons, and we're going to get into that. And then we're going to answer this question, or talk through this question. Did Jubilee participate in an effort to dismantle the following of Jordan Peterson? Were they trying to set him up so that everyone would go, oh, Jordan Peterson's not cool anymore? And I'm actually an atheist after all, because I thought he was a Christian, but now he's not, so I guess I'm going to be an atheist too. And who are the followers of Jordan Peterson? I want to explore that. Who are the followers of Jordan Peterson? And then Tim Pool proposed that they were trying to do something here, right? They were trying to set this up to trap and to fight against the right. And so then the other question is, why can't the left build the Rogansphere? Why can they not build the Rogansphere? And then I'm going to connect that, or I'm going to see if we can connect that to this creation narrative, this creation framework that I've been thinking about for a long time. Creation versus destruction narrative. And then lastly, we're going to go into Jordan Peterson and Russell Brand. So let's get into it. So I just went over the questions that we're going to talk about, and now we're going to get into them. So first of all, the anti-human forces. What am I talking about? There is a battle between the anti-humans versus the humans. And there is what connects to that? We've got the DEI. So in the current administration with Donald Trump, they are kind of attacking DEI, and they're saying you got to fire all of these DEI departments in all of the government, and Bud Light is scrambling, Target is scrambling, and so, but what are they actually doing? And Tim Pool was mentioning that they're actually, and his podcasters were actually mentioning that they've actually changed the acronyms of DEI so that now they just have this other name. So they just said, oh yeah, we're just going to funnel all of these DEI anti-humans into this other thing that's got another name, right? And so they're changing the names. And then I want to I might get into artificial intelligence, and but I want to start out by telling you guys that this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, and with consumption. So this is something that I want to encourage you guys with. When you get on your phone, it really is the damn phone, isn't it? My mom was right. It really is the damn phone. So consumption, when you consume, this is coming from a place. So when you get online and you scroll through things, and so I'm talking to people who are ambitious, who are trying to create something new, who are trying to contribute to the create a new asset, create a new business, contribute to society, make a good impact on the world. And when you this is the trap that we all fall in. And Alex Hormozy has talked about it. Jordan Peterson has talked about it, and so on and so forth. The consumption problem is that basically we fall in this trap of we want to do something for the world. We want to share our ideas, and we want to make an impact and say, I can do this, and I have stuff to share with the world. And so what we do before we share it with the world, we scroll and we scroll and we scroll, and we try to find all of the things that everyone else is saying so that we can make sure, because we feel inadequate as people. This is a sickness that we're living through right now. It's a chronic illness in society of people feeling like they don't have anything already inside them that they can bring forth to the world. And so what they have to do is they have to go and copy everything. They have to go and see what all the experts are saying. And there's some holes I can poke in this. So give me a moment to poke some holes in this. So the first thing is you have this idea that you're inadequate. I want to ask you a question. When you wake up in the morning, do you not have memories from what you did yesterday? Do you not have lessons from what you learned in your life yesterday and the day before in the years past? Do you not have a base of information do you not have a set of experiences that you've been through that other people might be able to benefit from? People younger than you, people who haven't done what you've done, right? And if that is the case, then you don't need to go online and consume all this stuff. And what you see is that if you go online and you go, how to grow a YouTube channel, or how to be successful, or how to make money, what you'll see if you watch 50 hours of podcasts and help videos, you will see that all of these huge experts, they're all saying the same damn thing. The same damn thing. And it's so boring. And they're just saying, oh yeah, you gotta be consistent, and oh yeah, you gotta post every day, and oh yeah, you gotta iterate every day, and you gotta do all these things. And so why do you need to watch 50 hours of it? You're just copying, and then the entire society is going insane because they're just regurgitating the same thing. and then that leads into AI, which I want to talk about that just for a moment. And we're going to get into Jordan Peterson in a minute. But if you, I'm going to do this really briefly, but just think about this. If you want to do a, let's say you want to do a cooking channel, and so you have some recipes from your grandma. This is about artificial intelligence. And you have some recipes that your grandma gave you. And now she's dead. So you have to make these recipes and you want to show them to the world so that everyone can make that chicken pot pie that you wanted to make. And so what you're going to do is you're going to take the recipe, you're going to make it, and you're going to put it online, and you're going to go, look, this is a chicken pot pie. It's so cool. And you're going to be on Instagram and you're going to say, look, I'm a cook. I can cook things. And then I'm helping other women cook stuff. And so then you put that out online, but then what happens? Artificial intelligence comes in and it scans you and it scans all the other people who are talking about chicken pot pie and all of the other recipes, and it conglomerates them all together, and then it regurgitates it back out. So then the person, instead of going to Google search and finding your website, this is connects to branding, by the way, why people have to brand things. So they connect it. Instead of going on Google and going on your website and looking for your recipe and going, I like that person's recipe, what you do instead is you go to ChatGPT and you ask ChatGPT, oh, how do you make a cool thing? And he's going to say, oh yeah, chicken pot pie is cool. And he'll give you this corrupted and mostly the same recipe, but not the same as your grandma's. And then and then you'll go, oh, I want to do that. And you're going to make the recipe. And then you're going to go out and you're going to say, I want to show everyone how to make this recipe. And you're going to make a channel too about how to make recipes. And you're going to show the internet how to make chicken pot pie, but it's going to be different than the other person who made the chicken pot pie. And then you're going to give it to the internet, and the internet, the AI is going to grab it again and smash it all together and then regurgitate it back out, and then the next person, and then the next person. And this is happening billions of times a second. Billions of times a second. And so I'm just using an analogy of chicken pot pie. Soon, the chicken pot pie is going to be some sort of mush. Very soon, like in weeks or maybe years. I don't know how long it'll take, but it's going to be something completely different, and people will go insane. All right, so that is my rant on AI and consumption and how it will make us all insane. So what I do to combat that is I actually don't consume that much. I consume probably much less than the average. And every day when I wake up in the morning, I create things from what I already know. I write things down, I have ideas, and I try to present them to the world before I ever even look at social media at all. I don't even open my phone except maybe to see what time it is. So that's it. I'm going to move on to the next thing. So what happened? Let's explore these questions. What happened? Jordan Peterson had a debate with the anti-humans, and you could call them the leftists, the atheists, right? Jordan Peterson versus 20 atheists. And this is my take, all right? I want to propose that I want to ask the question, was Jordan Peterson genuine about his worldview when he went on that program? And were the anti-humans, were they well prepared? And so this is my dialogue here. So if you look at, let's think about Jordan Peterson's quotes in the past. when Jordan Peterson talks about belief, he always says that belief is the way you live out the belief. It is not a proclamation, right? And he always insists when they say, "Do you believe in God?" He has famously said, "I act as if I believe in God." And he makes that distinction, and everybody gets mad about it, right? And so what is happening here? And were the anti-humans well prepared? And this is what I think. The anti-humans, the atheists, because they're the anti-humans. Atheists are anti-humans and I'm not casting shade on atheists in general. I think some of them are perfectly good people as far as just being upstanding citizens. They can exist, and but they were well prepared to get shallow thinkers to agree with him, to agree that to agree with them, with these debaters. That's what I believe. They were saying that he was well prepared. They knew what Jordan Peterson was going to say, and they had questions ready. So then Jordan Peterson is criticized because he goes and he says, "Don't play games, eh? Don't play games with me." And he and these guys are just saying, "What do you think means, what is belief to you? And do you think belief is when do you believe it to be true? Do you believe that do you believe in Jesus? Do you believe in God?" And then he replies with, "Don't play games," because and so many people are saying, "Oh, he's just trying to play semantic games," and I'm going to get into that in a moment. So, did he find a hole did they find a hole in Jordan Peterson's philosophy? Is he a fraud? And the narrative is that he just played semantic games, and he was talking about this truth and belief, because in the debate, this guy who comes on all sorts of debates, and I think they weren't expecting everyone to know that this guy is a professional debater, and he's actually very good at what he does, because he's very good at being well, I'm going to get into that in a minute. Was he a good faith actor? So they talked about truth and belief, and Jordan Peterson says, you're making a circular definition. You're trying to just replace the word believe with truth. And so were the debaters ignorant of Jordan Peterson and just clever? Were they just clever and they just had good arguments, or did they actually know Jordan Peterson? And we all know the answer to this. If you think for like 2 seconds, or if you just watch these guys do what they do, you know for a fact they researched Jordan Peterson. They found out that his wife was a Catholic. They found out that he was sometimes going to Catholic church or Christian church or whatever. They found out that he said these things, and they found out that the Christians didn't really like it that much. And so they knew they were going to come in there and they were going to push on this button, right? And then the next question is, did Jordan Peterson know that they knew who he was? And the answer is, of course they did. Of course he did. He knew for a fact. He probably knew these guys. He probably had seen these guys debate before. And he knew, because he works at Daily Wire, so he's talked to Ben Shapiro about his debate. He's talked to Michael Knowles about his debate. He's probably talked to Charlie Kirk, or he's seen it, right? And so he knows that they know that he has this thing this controversy with the idea of belief. So what trap were the debaters trying to trap him in? Well, he was talking about worship, and he was saying that worship is prioritize. And worshiping is when you put something above something else. And he was explaining that it is a hierarchy. So if you worship fitness, then you're willing to let all of your relationships die for fitness. But if you just worship it a little bit, let's say, then maybe you're willing to let some friends go to make sure that you get your workout in, and you'll miss some parties, but it's not all the way up on the hierarchy. You're not going to blow off your kids for fitness. You're not going to blow off your wife for fitness. And he was saying that the higher up on the hierarchy it is, the more close it becomes to worship. And if you see in the Bible, the Tower of Babel, what they wanted to do was build a tower that reached the heavens, because they believed that the heavens was where God was, or the gods, or something like that. They were worshiping glory, but they were trying to lift themselves up above everything else. They were trying to lift themselves, to exalt themselves, and they worshiped the high level, the high status, more than anything else, and they gave all of their life to this, and people died trying to build that tower, and there were thousands of slaves and blah, 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 blah. So were they worshiping going up into the heavens, this sort of enlightenment? Yes, they were. And what were they trying to trap him in? They knew that in Catholicism, the Catholics pray to Mary, right? And they knew that that was a contention that they could get him with. And if he would just say, yes, I agree with the Catholics, or yes, I'm Christian, then they could say, well, you're worshiping Mary, and worshiping Mary is bad. And because there's only one God, and they were going towards this angle because there's only one God, and the Bible says there's only one God, and I guarantee you they know these things, and they wanted him to say, yeah, they do this thing with Mary, and it is a form of worship, and therefore the Catholics are bad, and therefore your wife is bad. And they wanted to trap him in this place where he could either attack his wife's faith as a Catholic, and I think maybe his daughter. I think his daughter's not really Catholic, but maybe she is. I don't know. But they wanted to do this so that they could get him to either attack his wife, or attack Christians, or blow a hole in his idea of worship. And they were completely ignoring, they were bad faith actors. So that's the question, that's the answer to that question. They were bad faith actors, and this is what you see all throughout the anti-human club, the left side of things. They're all bad faith actors. They will defend criminals if it helps them to maintain their frame that they want to be in. So then the next question is, why does Jordan Peterson insist on not proclaiming his faith in Jesus Christ? Why does Jordan Peterson insist on not proclaiming his faith in Jesus Christ? And this is a very contentious issue, because he is contending with all of these Christians and I have some experience with Christians. I am a Christian, and I have experience with the culture of church-going people, and people that say they're Christians, or people that go to church on Sundays. And I'm just going to give my perspective. The the thing is that what people do in church is they go, "Oh, I believe in Jesus Christ," and what they do is they use the Bible to justify their life, because Jesus forgives sins, right? And he can forgive all sins, and it doesn't matter how bad you are. And so Jesus forgives sins. So what they do is they say, they in their life they go, I go to church, I believe in God, I believe in Jesus. He saved my sins. Now I can go out and live a life however I want, and then I can come on Sundays. And especially with the Catholic faith, it is vulnerable to this criticism, because they have this confessions thing where they just go and they say their confessions, and the sort of amateur level of philosophy is, oh, you can just do whatever you want, and then you can just confess, and then you're good. And so then we have also the Baptists, who believe that this idea of once saved, always saved, which means that once you're saved, there's nothing you can do to fall from the grace of God, to be separated from God. You're going to be good. You're kosher all the way through. And if you're not saved, then you were never going to be saved. If you fall away, you're never going to fall. You were never saved in the first place. And so there's these ideas on the lower pendulum, or on the lower levels of Christian thinkers, that allow people to just go, oh yeah, I'm in the club, and so I'm good. But then they can live their life however they want. And is Jordan Peterson, does he believe fully in Jesus Christ? I don't know the answer to that, but I would lean towards him believing in Jesus Christ as being the truest thing that he has discovered, because he's actually said in one of his Joe Rogan interviews that he believes that the Bible is the truest thing. It is more true than anything. It is more true than regular truth, is my paraphrase of how he said it. And this is, so a lot of people will accuse him of him just being a Jungian guy, this guy who believes in a sort of the philosophy of Jung, that Charles Jung, I believe his name is Jung, or Charles Jung. So they'll just say, oh yeah, he believes in Charles Jung and he's just trying to trick us, right? But it looks to me like what he's doing instead is he's seeing the value of the Bible, and he believes in it. And and if you actually look at Alex O'Connor, the Cosmic Skeptics interview with him, he actually says, do you think that Jesus actually rose from the dead? And he said, yes. In so many words, he said yes. And then he said, but I don't know what that means. And he said that in other interviews, where he says the narrative and the material world touch, and it made him cry, and he got emotional, and he said, I think I believe that, but I'm so terrified of what it would mean if I completely embraced that belief. So do I agree with his way of navigating the world? I don't do it that way. I proclaim Jesus Christ as my Savior. I believe he historically rose from the dead, and I'll just say it. But do I understand where he's coming from and the point he's trying to make? Yes, that living the life is what counts. Living a life that where you carry your cross, where you let your old self die every day, and you try to be rebirthed every day, and you're willing to die for the truth, that is the embodiment of Christianity. And so what is God going to say to him at Judgment Day? I don't know. So let's get into the next question. What is the point of Jubilee? And the question comes because people have seen Jubilee, and there's been chatter online that basically they're trying to just set up this thing where they can get viral clips online where these people go one liner and the other person goes, "Oh, I'm confused, I don't get it." And so they have these professionals come on and they pretend like they're just regular dudes, but they're actually famous professional debaters. They come on, not all of them, but at least, 20% of them. And they come on and they go, "I'm going to get Charlie Kirk, and I'm going to get Ben Shapiro, and I'm going to get Jordan Peterson. And when I get him, then we're going to clip it." And that's their business plan. And they do these very polarizing things. And on one hand, it's like more power to them. They're using the power of attention. They're using the power of polarization to attract attention. And then you could argue that means there's going to be more conversation as a result of that. But the question remains, are they trying to paint the humanity, the Christians, the theists, the people who believe in objective morality, the capitalists, the conservatives, are they trying to paint them? Do they have an agenda where they can set it up so that those people look bad? That's the question. And I don't know, I'm not sure I know the answer to that. But what does this have to do with the Joe Rogan obsession from the left? So it all connects. It seems to me that it all connects. So you've got the Jubilee thing where they kind of trapped Jordan Peterson. They put him in this place where he was supposed to be this self-proclaiming born again Christian, which would make sense, and then which would make sense for the video. And then they put him with these anti-Christians, and Tim Pool actually made that point, that they're actually anti-Christians that were on that podcast. And they made them believe that so that they could just go in and attack him as if he were defending Christianity. And so the question is, did they do this to make him look bad, and therefore to make him lose his following, and therefore to make him fall from public view and to lose power? And so there, you could connect this to the mumblings and the rumblings and the rumors that the Daily Wire is going bankrupt or something like that. I have not verified that. I just heard that people are saying it. So that is what it is. And so how does it connect? So the anti-humans are trying, this is a spiritual battle, guys. This is not just, two guys from two sides trying to duke it out. It literally is people who believe in humanity, who believe in a higher purpose, in a higher power, that we're serving something greater, and that we should be doing things, like for families and for the good of society in a human sense, not in a just materialist sense of like, oh yeah, we should save the birds or we should save the whales or something like that. It's there's these people over here that go, the family comes first. The society needs to have responsibility. They need to stand up straight, and they need to not be criminals. And if they weren't criminals, then they would move forward in life, and they would have more economy. And higher expectations means higher performance, right? And then we have the other side that it really is a spiritual battle, because these people, if you just look at their track record, it is always taking the productive thing and trying to topple it over, right? They're taking the productive man who has built the society, and they're trying to go, bad man, you are toxic. You are winning too much. You need to win less. Your color has been winning more than everyone else, and therefore just go and die, right? And that is basically their narrative. And it's crazy how they have many men, and I would venture to say they have many men who are weak on their side, actually fighting in their battle as their soldiers. But then they have some of the middle, some of these people that are just good people in general, who are overcome with guilt and shame. Even if they don't agree with it ideologically or intellectually, they are overcome with shame, and they are influenced to let these things slide, to let all of this anti-human agenda just move forward and just kind of be quiet because, oh, I don't want to win too much. And they have these ideas that slip in to these people that are entrepreneurs that want to work hard. They're like, oh, yeah, it's true. I mean, women, I do want the women to flourish too. So like, maybe I'll just won't try so hard so that they can get a promotion. So this idea that the Joe Rogan, the Rogansphere is here, and the left is attacking them, it's because Joe Rogan has shifted to kind of, he's a kind of guy who just kind of follows the thing that makes sense to him. Russell Brand called it the blue collar philosophy or something like that, where these people are just doing their philosophy on this podcast for 3 hours and talking about, oh yeah, the UFOs and what does that mean, and the Big Bang, where did that come from, and God, if God's there, then who made God, and oh well, maybe God was eternal, or maybe the universe is eternal, and they talk about these things and they go, wow, that really blows my mind, bro. And Joe Rogan is just kind of following the evidence. He's talked to all these interesting people, and it seems like when he talks to people who are winners, who are basing their life on upward movement, on taking self-responsibility, he relates to that because that's what he did in his life. He works out every day. He gets in a ice bath every day. He fights, and he works really hard all the time because he knows that's the only way he's going to achieve what he wants to achieve. And so he has naturally, organically built this club of all of these people that are upward moving and that are self-responsibility type people. And the left, their entire ideology is about attacking what is productive, attacking what is pure. Virtues, they're saying, no, virtues are just relative, and sex is just relative, and the truth is just relative, so just make it all die. And so they're trying to be the antithesis to things that create. And so this connects to this idea that Jubilee, whether on purpose or just by following culture, is attacking Jordan Peterson to try to dismantle his following, right? And then we have Tim Dillon, who went on an interview with CNN, and they're just grasping at straws. They've got this weird blonde girl, and she's like, well, what does, why are the left, why don't they have comedians? And why aren't they successful? And didn't Joe Rogan, like, doesn't he get mad at anyone if a leftist comes on a podcast? And Tim Dillon was just like, you're nuts. This is insane. Like, these people have plenty of clout. And that was his perspective. But the thing is that if they continue with their ideology, it's self-defeating, because it's all about, it's their fault. It's about this idea of bitterness and envy and blowing up all of the framework of society, that what has helped societies in upward movement for entire existence is this idea of self-responsibility, of creating things, of being innovative, of taking up your cross and going above adversity. All of these things are inspiring to people, and the left has to make fun of all of these inspiring things. And they have to pretend like they're not inspiring. And they have to try to demonize those things. So they really have a disadvantage. And if you connect it to this idea of the open sourcing of the internet, where X has gained all this traction, and the free market of people just coming in and saying their ideas and people creating their own fame and all that stuff, what has happened is the left had a stronghold on the minds of people. It could say the narrative, it could just lie whenever it wanted, and it was able to brainwash people by using guilt and shame and lies. And now people are like, wait a minute, I saw that thing and it didn't happen that way. And they're going viral, right? And they're saying, well, I had a camera and I saw it and it wasn't like that. And, well, I was there and it wasn't like that. And they're going viral, and so now they can't just lie. Now they have to stand on their own 2 feet and go, this is our ideology. And they can't really back down, because the loudest people on their side are anti-human, bitter people with daddy issues, and they're the ones who are carrying the torch for them. So the question again, did Jubilee participate in an effort to dismantle the following of Jordan Peterson? I don't know, but it sure looked like that was what happened, because they didn't dismantle it completely, but the Christians who were like, oh yeah, I like Jordan Peterson, he's so cool, and I think he's a Christian, the shallow thinkers of the Christian club were like, oh, he didn't proclaim Christ because that's what it says. If you don't proclaim me, then you'll be denied in heaven. And so they're like all pissed. And then the atheists are like, haha, I was right. Jordan Peterson's an atheist, because they're shallow thinkers. And they're just looking, I'm not saying all atheists are shallow thinkers. I'm saying that in general, this is just a statistic fact that most people, like, if you just think of statistics of like the 1 percentile, the top people, they think the best, and then 50% below That's a big chunk of people. They're all a little dumb. Like, they're all a little bit dull. They don't think too good, right? And so that's not an insult. That's just a fact. That's just the fact of life. Everything there's the worst and then there's the best, and the middle is the biggest. So the middle was like, oh, the middle Christians were like, Jordan Peterson sucks, I hate him. And some people were like on the fence. They're like, I think I might believe in God. But then they saw the thing of Jordan Peterson wobbling, and that's at least the narrative. And they got this narrative that he denied Christianity. And so they're like, oh, well, I look up to Jordan, and he flip-flopped, and he's not really a Christian, so neither am I. And then they can win some people back, right? Who are the followers of Jordan Peterson? I would say that the followers of Jordan Peterson are young men from like 16 at the lowest to 45-ish. And they're with some outliers, of course. And they are people who've had an issue fitting in religion, or they're atheists, but they found an inspiring version of atheism in their mind. They think that Jordan Peterson is an atheist, so they see it and they go, oh yeah, like all the psychology and how it all connects, like, in the narrative, and so yeah, I can attach to that, but I don't have to believe in God. And then the Christians like me, who, yes, I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson. I see a lot of inspiration in the things he says, and he has profound things to say that are inspiring to me and that have helped me. But I don't agree with every frame he makes, with every claim he makes. But then there's Christians who have kind of struggled. They don't fit in the mold of just, oh yeah, we go to church on Sundays and we sing and we pray and that's it, and then we're done. And so they see Jordan Peterson and they're like, oh, like, living for Christ, the figure of Christ is deeper than that. And those people relate to Jordan Peterson. So the idea that Tim Pool proposed, they were trying to make impressionable young people rethink their belief in God because they would see that Jordan Peterson couldn't defend Christianity. I think he was right about that. And then I think he was wrong about the fact that he said he was playing semantic games, because if you just listened to the rest of my spiel here, Jordan Peterson did not split hairs. He did not play semantic games. He defended his position exactly as he always has, which is, he believes that living out your belief is to believe it, and that saying it doesn't count. Like I said, I'm not taking Jordan Peterson's position and saying that he is right. What I'm saying, 100% right. What I'm saying is that is what he has always defended. So I think that Tim Pool and the people on there, they were saying, oh yeah, I'm so disappointed in Jordan Peterson, and look, seeing him like that was so pathetic. And that was a shallow way of looking at it, because to be very frank, most of them don't really understand the Bible. They don't really understand Christianity. And by the looks of it, they don't really understand why Jordan Peterson has taken that stance so firmly that living out the belief that actually doing it in your life is the thing, right? And then we'll go into this one, which is, why can't the left build the Joe Rogan sphere? And that is, I've touched on it a little bit, but the Joe Rogan sphere, it won't be built on the left because it does not inspire men, because it is a destruction narrative, right? It is a burn it all down narrative. It is saying, burn down family tradition, burn down the idea of man and woman, burn down the idea of nuclear family, burn down the idea of marriage, burn down the idea of responsibility, burn down the idea that if you work hard and you do things that are good and aligned with creation, aligned with productivity, aligned with overcoming adversity, then you can move up in the world. And their entire narrative is that you're screwed if you're a certain color. You're screwed if you're a certain sex. You're screwed, or you are the oppressor. And if you are the oppressor, then the only good work you can do is to hold back and to hide in a corner and to curl up and to go, oh yes, please spank me, and please give my job to someone else, and please just don't worry about me. I'm okay down here. And oh yes, I cry like a baby, and that because I'm a man and I cry like a baby, and that doesn't make any sense, right? This is not a inspiring narrative. This does not inspire men. They hate it. They're thirsty for something that says, "Oh, I'm important. Oh, I can do big things." And the left cannot do that. And I'm not saying that the left is just a party. The left is a anti-human thing. It will always exist, right? You could change the name of it, but the anti-human blob will always exist, because this is a spiritual battle where there's always going to be the people who are against the goodness and the people who are for the goodness. I'm not saying all of the people that are in the Rogansphere are for the goodness in their totality. I'm just saying that the narrative that they're championing is being for the goodness. The last thing I want to say is this a repeat of history? So right now we have the left is in retreat mode, but they're still trying to be active. And this is what we saw in the past. Like, if you look at 100 years of history, you can see that the left tried to rise up, like I think it was like during the Soviet Union era, the communists, all that crap. And then they were abolished, they were squashed, and so they retreated. But where did they retreat? They retreated into the universities. They retreated into the schools. They retreated into these areas where they could quietly brainwash the society. And so right now, seems to be a repeat of history where it's getting squashed. And so they're like, oh no, we don't have the high ground anymore. We can't siege the front lines. We have to hide, and we have to work in behind the scenes. We have to change all the acronyms. We have to try to, fund the things with secret funding and just try to lay low, but keep building this anti-human thing that's going on. And that is, I believe, a repeat of history. So if you guys enjoy this analysis and you want to hear more of this, then please like this so that I will know and that I will actually do it again. And I help men build meaningful lives by teaching them to align their mentalities and their habits to the creation framework, to the creator and to creation itself, to this entire ecosystem of how the world reacts to you inputting and having fruits and working hard and going on an adventure. And if you align your habits and your mindsets to this upward thinking, then you can inevitably move forward in life and you can actually have meaning in life, because a lot of people are just going, oh, I don't have money, so they're looking for the result, right? They're just going, oh, I need to get money. But they're not taking into account the creation framework that provides meaning in life. They're not taking into account that they have to build a family or else it will all go extinct and they will be alone in the hospital when they're dying at age 85, right? And they're not taking into account what it means that what you do every day. This is I took this from Jordan Peterson. What you do every day, that's your life, man. I will leave you guys with that. God bless and peace.